value education. And then second session we will have on art of sharing and caring. Value education is a very important subject. It is becoming an important subject, and particularly in India also a lot of efforts are being made. And in fact UNESCO got very much alarmed a few years back and gave the mandate education, learning to be, not only learning to do. So far we were emphasizing on learning to do, trying to learn so many things, education, about so many subjects we are learning. But UNESCO got alarmed when the statistical data was received that 54% of the youth in America, Japan and Sweden are not meeting natural death. The cause of their death is suicide. 54% of the youth in America, Japan and Sweden meeting not natural death but committing suicide. And lot of youngsters becoming schizophrenic, lot of youngsters becoming drug addict, lot of students becoming violent, and Columbia School and other places and all other incidents rapidly are multiplying themselves. So UNESCO gave the mandate, not only education to be, learning to be, but not learning to do, but also learning to be. That is, try to be a better human being, not only trying to learn doing so many things, engineering and medical and all that. That is the mandate that was given. And the latest mandate given by UNESCO, I'm very happy to tell you that UNESCO has now recognized Swami Vivekananda as an important educator. It should have been done much long back. But now they have recognized, UNESCO has recognized Swami Vivekananda as one of the important educators. And the latest mandate that is given by the UNESCO is education, the treasure within. Education, the treasure within. There is a treasure within each and every human being. This is what Swami Vivekananda told, that each soul is potentially divine based on the Vedanta philosophy. Please come here, there's enough space here. Please come.
Thank you. I'm sorry.
So Swami Vivekananda had given the mandate that based on Vedanta philosophy, each soul is potentially divine. And now UNESCO has told, yes, the treasure is within. The aim of education is to find out the treasure. Not only learning to do, learning to carry out certain things, but it is trying to find out the measure within. So we are now all over the world, people are getting alarmed and becoming conscious about value-oriented education. Of course, but it is the most discussed subject and the least understood subject. Most discussed subject, least understood subject. That is why, first of all, in the outset I would tell you, there are so many places, so many institutions, so many countries trying to do value-oriented education, but they are all half attempts or they are not full-sorted attempts. But Swami Vivekananda wanted to go to the root of the problem, and he wanted the total transformation in the education policy. He wanted a very different type of approach of education than what we have been following in various countries throughout for so many centuries. His concept is entirely different. And now gradually we are able to understand that unless until we adopt that kind of education. So value-oriented education, only some few values are being given, and then you have some stories and you have some role play and all that. That is not enough. We have to go and strike at the very foundation of the education system, of the very basic concept of education. So this is why, first of all, at the outset I would like to make it clear that our concept of value education is entirely different. It's very revolutionary in nature, in the sense that we do not want a half sort of attempt, but we want root and branch reform. Now what do I mean by that? So our value-oriented education is nothing but essentially what Swami Vivekananda called man-making education. Swami Vivekananda said, education alone is the panacea of all our evils. But he also said, what we want is man-making education, character-building education. And sometimes I humorously say, I do not know how much it is true of America, but in India I can safely say, because I have visited more than 1,000 education institutions myself. So I can very well say about them. But here also what I have heard, what are the incidents I am hearing? What are all the incidents I am hearing? The students getting drug addicted, the students getting violent, taking the gun of the father and shooting the father, and coming to the school and shooting the teachers and students. And the incidents are multiplying. It's not an exceptional case. The exception is becoming rule now, gradually, everywhere. And it's a gun making. It's a gun culture that we are trying now to have in America. America is the only country where 48% of the people on average are carrying guns. This is the highest number all over the world. This is what we learned from Time magazine. So, this Swami Vivekananda telling is that he said, what we want is man-making education, character-building education. I humorously say that what we are giving is Rakshasa-making education, not man-making education, demon-making education. Now, Rakshasa, what do you mean by Rakshasa? Rakshasa is not something like with the two horns that you see in the TV. They are in the TV, sometimes the pictures are shown, Rakshasa, demons, they are with the two horns. No. These modern Rakshasa, they come with safari suit. Latest dress, very good looking Rakshasa and Rakshasi. What is the Rakshasa? Bhartrihari, one of the greatest thinkers in India, wrote many books. One of the books is Niti Shatakam. And there he gives a beautiful shloka. There are 4 types of people in the society. He says, what are the 4 types? Ete satpurushah parartha ghatakah swarthan parityaje. Please come here. There's enough space. Please come here.
He's doing the taping.
Oh, taping. Oh, yes, he has to stand. Yeah.
I don't have to stand, but I want to make sure it comes correct.
Whatever comfortable you are.
Yeah.
But
Thank you.
I was little uncomfortable because you were standing. So, Bhartrihari says there are 4 types of people in the society. Ete satpurushah parartha ghatkah swarthan parityajye सामान्यस्तु परार्थम उद्यम अव्रत स्वार्थ अविरोधनये तेमी मानव राक्षसाः परहितम स्वार्थाय निघ्नन्ति ये निघ्नन्ति निरर्थकम परहितम ते के न जानीमहे. 4 types of people. First, Satpurusha. What are they? Satpurusha, they try to good to others, sacrificing their own lives. That is Satpurusha. Excellent human being. Second, Samanya Manusha, ordinary human being. They try to good to themselves first, and then they try to good to others. If energy left, time left, money left. Third, Manav Rakshasa. They are looking like human beings, but they are Rakshasa. In form, they are human beings. But Manav Rakshasa, a special word is given. Manav Rakshasa, not Rakshasa. Manav Rakshasa. What are they? For their small self-interest, they can do any amount of harm to others. You will have these Rakshasa in America also, I think. In India, we have plenty. One executive engineer, he takes a bribe of 10 lakhs rupees from under the table, from the builder, from the contractor, and tells the contractor, you may mix any amount of sand with cement. but you give me 10 lakhs rupees. And then with the contractor builds a very nice dam, check dam. It is inaugurated very nicely. There is a lot of money spent on inauguration. The minister comes, inaugurated. Then the heavy rain comes. Check dam is gone because there was all sand, no cement. So, but that engineer, he is very happy. Thousands of people become homeless. Hundreds of people die. Crores of rupees of loss, millions of rupees of loss to the nation. But that engineer saying, doesn't matter. I have got my own house, 1 million rupee, wonderful. I am happy. When I was in Rajkot, one of our devotees went to Mumbai. And because they were told that you want to go to the specialist. So she went to the specialist. After returning, she told me, Swami, do you know the first question asked by the doctor is not here, Bhadraben. I'm talking about India. So, the first question asked by the doctor was not, since how long you are suffering, what is your problem? No. How much can you spend? First question. What is your budget? And we have a package there. Supposing you have got 3.5 lakhs rupees, don't worry. Within 3.5 lakhs rupees, we will solve everything. What is that? We will first take the test, all types of tests, diagnostic survey, and then test will be done in our laboratory, and the reports will be prepared as we want, and then the reports will be made, manufactured there without the real blood sample. And then told, oh, urgent, you have to undergo operation. You have to undergo operation. It's not needed, but 3.5 lakhs rupees. So undergo operation, and if the patient dies on the operation table, the doctor said, don't worry, the expenditure for the last rite of cremation are included in this package. Don't worry. It's a total package. So first question is, how much can you spend? So the doctors are more interested in taking money rather than curing the patient. For their small self-interest, they can kill the patient. Even if it is not needed, they will carry out the operation just because they have to get money. So these are Manav Rakshasa. For their small self-interest, they can do any amount of harm to others. These are all Manav Rakshasa, demons in human form. Bhartari says there is 4th type of person also. But I can't give the name. Te ke na jani mahe. I am not able to give any name because they are worse than Manav Rakshasa. 3rd type of people, for their small self-interest, they can do any amount of harm to others. 4th type of people, they don't derive any benefit, but they enjoy others' downfall and others' loss. Somebody's house is burning. Oh, wonderful. But did you get any profit? No, but his house is burning. I'm so happy. There, you are not getting any benefit, but others' loss gives you joy. Somebody's failure gives you happiness. This is the more, they are worse than demons. They don't get any benefit, but still they are enjoying others' downfall. Now, these are the 4 types of people about whom Bhartrihari has told. I have made a latest research. There is 5th type also. Maybe they were not available during Bhartrihari's time. Now, I can't give the name because 4th type there is no name, 5th type no name, but I can tell you what are they. 4th type of people, they don't derive any benefit. Without deriving any benefit, they enjoy others' downfall and others' harm. But 5th type of people, they enjoy others' harm so much, by harming themselves, they do harm to others. So what do? They sit down in an aeroplane and strike with the world tower. 5,000 people dead. Oh, I am also killed, doesn't matter. Killing myself, but 5,000 people are killed. I am so happy. Isn't it? The terrorist. Not only that, there is a beautiful story. I don't have the time to tell the story. A story of the conch shell. And the person, he got the boon, and then afterwards his neighbor got 2 houses and he got only 1 house, and he became so much impatient. And so then later on he became so much unhappy that he started praying, "Oh Lord, please make a well in front of my house." So 2 wells constructed instead of 2 houses in front of 2 houses of the neighbor. And then he said, "Oh Lord, please make me blind with 1 eye." And so the neighbor got blinded by 2 eyes, and he fell down into the well, and he was so happy. I have become blind, but the neighbor is killed. Very nice. So by harming myself, I try to do harm to others. I enjoy so much, others harm so much that I try to harm myself in order to harm others. That is the fifth type. Now in our society today, there are plenty of Mano Rakshasas. Fourth type is also there, fifth type is also there. And Samanya Manusha, ordinary human beings are very less. And Satpurusha we have to see with the microscope. Not available. And that is why Swami Vivekananda said, what we want is man-making education, character building education. Lawrence QB, he said in his book, The Human Being, what we want is a perfect human being. He says that the ultimate aim of education is to make a better human being, as much human as possible. That should be the aim. That is it, he said last century. But Swami Vivekananda gave much earlier the same concept, that what we want is man-making education, character-building education. Now what we mean by value-oriented education is to give this man-making education, character-building education, not simply some simple set of values. When we are talking about value education, I will give you one important formula. Values are never taught. Values are always taught. Values are never taught. Values are always caught. That is item number one, principle number one. So, if you again find out some syllabus, this and that is okay. But then, most important way of imparting value education is through demonstration. And that is why Swami Vivekananda gave the mandate, be and make. First you become great, make others great. First you build your own character, make others character. Let first of all the teachers, if they become excellent human beings, then only students will be able to become excellent human beings. So when we carry out our value education program for the students, simultaneously we carry out program for the teachers and for the parents, because value education is a triangle. One end students, one end teachers, one end parents. All the three have to be involved in the process. You can come here. All the three have to be involved in the process. Students, if you want them value education to be imparted, most important item is teacher. If the teachers are not having good character or they are not excellent, you cannot expect the students to be excellent. Similarly, if the parents are not having excellent character, you cannot expect the children to have excellent character. So all the three are important. Teachers, parents and students. So before that's why Swami Vivekananda gave the formula, be and make. First you become great, then make others great. First you develop your own character, teachers, parents, then by seeing you, children will imbibe those values. You may tell many times, don't speak a lie, don't speak a lie. It's not going to carry any weight if you speak a lie. I remember a group of children were playing and a teacher was passing by. It's a reformed, story. The real story is different, but I want to change a little bit for various reasons. So the teacher was passing by and the children were playing, and the teacher asked, what are you playing? Oh, we have a very different type of game. We have a game in which everybody will speak a lie, and one who can speak the blackest lie, he will be given award. What? A competition of speaking lie? No, you should never lie, you should never lie. It's very bad. Throughout my life, I have never spoken a lie. And all the children clap, sir, you get the first prize. Because there cannot be a greater lie than this, that the whole life I have never spoken a lie. So, children know very well. They know very well, teachers, what are they doing after the school hours, where are they going, what type of work they are doing, what type of company they are keeping, everything. The children are very, very, and you will have to agree with me that nowadays IQ level of the children is much more than what we have. They are much more intelligent. And so somehow or the other they have got that intelligence department. They come to know what the teachers are doing after the school hours and what the parents are doing. If the parents are telling them in the childhood that tell the person that I am not here, and the child says that my father is saying that my father is not here. It starts from there. The value education starts from there. If we tell our children, we teach them how to tell lie, and then later on we tell them don't tell a lie. One of the person was there in Bombay. He used to tell when he used to come to us, don't go to these Swamis, they will spoil you. So first thing they will say that you try to be truthful, this and that. You know, they will teach you Satyameva Jayate. That is old mantra. The new mantra is Asatyameva Jayate. The more you can tell the untruth, the more you will develop. You have to be practical in approach and pragmatic in approach. I said, okay, don't come. After 3 years, the father met me. He was very much in morals. What happened? My son has started pickpocketing my money. I said, you are telling him be practical. Be practical means don't believe that you have to speak truth. Tell lie. Be dishonest, because honesty is the best policy. That was a long thing. Now dishonesty is the best policy. If you want to survive in the modern world of competition, the more you can the more you can have cutthroat competition, the more you can tell a lie, the more you can be smart enough to befool others and deceive others, the more you will advance. Be pragmatic in approach, be practical. That is the message he was giving to his son. And the son started practicing at his house. Charity begins at home. So he started pickpocketing the money of his own father. Then the father said, I said, you were teaching him to be practical, so he started become practical. You cannot blame. So, value education starts with teachers and parents. Then only it will come down to the students. So values are always caught and never taught. So more education is required for the parents and teachers first. Then we can talk to the students. That is number one. Number two is, what is this man-make education, character building education? So how we are trying to do there in India is that we have given, the name of the programs we conduct, workshops, total personality development. Now when you tell them that there will be a program on character building, nobody will come. But personality development, everybody is very much interested. It's a catchy word. So it's nothing but packaging, modern age is packaging. Outside package is very important. Inside whatever you may give is okay. So we have given the outside packaging, total personality development. That is the name of the workshop that we conduct. Hundreds of such workshops. Now, but we have given the name total personality development, not personality development, because then in that case it will be like any other personality development workshop. There are so many agencies working and they are carrying out programs on personality development. What do? They teach them how to develop very effective personality, how to impress upon others, and what type of matching dress you should have, what type of hairstyle you should have, what type of manners and etiquettes. Hello, how are you? Fine, thank you. And how to see table manners, other etiquettes and manners. Then how to face the interview. And then at the most, public speaking. And personal development is enough, is gone, is over. But we say that is one part of personality development, but it's not enough. External development of the personality is a must. That is not enough. Internal development of the personality is much more important. So external appearance may be very good. You may impress the interviewer and you may get the job, but when it comes to the real job, you may fail. If you have done only packaging, external packaging, if inside matter is not there, you will fail in the long run. So I tell the students when I go to the schools and colleges, how many of you want success? Then they raise their hand, all of them. Okay, all want success. Do you want long-term success or short-term success? Then say, do you want long-term success? I said, now the equation is like this. If you want to have long-term success, you will have to work for a longer time. If you want short-term success, you have to work for a short time. Are you ready to work for a long time? Are you ready to give that much time, work for a long time? Then you will get long-term success. So this is what is required. Short-term success, only personality development is enough. But for long-term success, you require total personality development. What is that? Number one, physical development of the personality. External appearance is good. And not only that, physical strength is a must. So you must have good physical health, supported by nutritious food, regular habits, regular diet, exercise, etc. That's one part. But that is not enough. Intellectual development of personality. For you must keep abreast with the knowledge of your subject as well as other subjects. So, and you must develop your intelligence level, IQ level. So that intellectual development of the personality is a must. That is also not enough. Mental development of the personality. You may be very good looking, you may be a very good personality externally speaking, but still, if the mind is weak, then you will not be successful. There is no willpower. There is no mental strength. A little problem comes and starts. I was there in Rajkot and one girl came. Microbiology, she was first class. She had MSc already, microbiology, she had passed with first class. Such intelligent girl, very good looking. But she comes and she says, I want to commit suicide. Why? Some problem has come in life. Small problem, but suddenly, because there is no mental strength. So mentally, the children have to be made strong so that they can face the struggle, because struggle will come, problems will come. Swami Vivekananda was asked by Maharaja Khetri, Ajit Singh ji was his disciple. Suddenly he asked at Khetri, Swamiji, what is life? Swamiji immediately replied, my dear prince, life is nothing but the struggle of a being under the circumstances trying to press it down. So there will be problems, struggle will be there, but these children will have to be made to face the struggles boldly. So that mental strength is very important. Strength, mental strength, courage to face any situation, courage to face the problems, courage to face the challenges. That is very important. So willpower has to be developed. Many people do not have mind control. They do not have control over mind. They become angry. So many, whenever we go to various workshops, particularly in the children, they ask invariably this question. Of course, elderly also same thing. They also ask the same question, how to control anger. Very big question, very big problem. They are not able to control anger. Now these are the things that are to be really taught. They want this. How to control anger, how to develop willpower. So all our books, willpower is development, mind is control, the secret of concentration, how to control anger, these are all selling very much. Because this is the need of the hour. They want to have this. So mental development of personality. Most important problem nowadays for the children is concentration. They are not having power of concentration. They have lost the power of concentration. This is the biggest problem, and that is very natural, because right from the childhood they are becoming addicted to video games and viewing the TV. On an average, in America, when the TV came, they were viewing 5 hours. Now the same trend has come to India. Now, what is done in America? Now, after 5 years, that is repeated by India. Blind imitation of Western materialistic culture. So they are going after media. They are also seeing now a lot of TV. Now, video games, internet, cheating, chatting, going together. You know, internet, chatting and cheating going together. One girl came to me in Ahmedabad. She was in tears. What happened? No, she was having a chat with some boy. Internet chat for 1 or 2 years it went on. Then they both decided that she should get married and all that. And then later on, once they met, and then the boy met the parents of the girl also, and the parents also agreed. Now the parents of the boy must meet the girl. So she was asking, well, afterwards. Once she telephoned, suddenly she found another female voice from the other end. Then she said, who are you? Who are you? I am his friend. Well, I am his wife. Huh? He's a married person, he has never drilled. And he is telling that, yes, I will marry you, I will marry with you, going on, postponing. And this girl, poor girl, is always expecting. Then afterwards, it was really found out. Then she asked, I said that when I will tell you that I have got married, in between she got married 6 months, then your heart will be broken. So I did not tell you. But now heart is broken with great difficulty. Now she was trying to commit suicide, but now still alive. I had to do a lot of counseling. So many cases, internet cheating, chatting going on together. Anyway, but this is all because of this, their concentration level is going down too much. Everywhere the same problem, they will ask how to develop concentration. This concentration problem has to come if the child has got lot of seeing. We had brought out a very nice article which has come out in a small booklet from Brahma Prana, Ravrajika Brahma Prana, who is in the United States. She carried out an article in Prabhupada Bharat where given details. There was a particular program that was conducted there in the United States only, and all children had come for the summer camp. And one of the girls, she was not, attending the classes. Then she was asked, why you are not attending? She said that I am not able to concentrate. So what do you do in the schools? She said, this is not my only problem, this is the problem of all my friends, and our teacher knows it. So they will have maximum 15 to 20 minutes of lecture, then there is discussion and group discussion and all that. They cannot concentrate more than 15 to 20 minutes. Same thing is happening in India. So 15 to 20 minutes is the maximum attention span.
Everything's okay.
It's okay.
Everything's
Okay? I hope nothing dangerous. Because we told about terrorists, maybe some terrorists come. So, at maximum attention span is 20 minutes for an average American student. Same thing is coming now to India. So, this concentration is a very big thing. So, we talk about mental development. When we talk about mental development, how to develop concentration? What are the things to be done? That we tell them. Intellectual development, physical development. Most important part is moral and spiritual development of personality. This spiritual development is a must. Now, even the modern science also says that simple IQ is not enough. I told at Vivekananda Vidyapitham about SQ. Dana Zohar, she wrote a book 10 years back. She is a professor at Oxford University. Now many books have come out on SQ, but she was one of the first to bring out this concept of SQ. She says in her book, SQ, Spiritual Intelligence, the Ultimate Intelligence, where she says, neurologically, physiologically, biologically, psychologically, from every point of view, there is a concluding evidence, there is something called SQ, which is the basis of both IQ and EQ. What is IQ? Intelligence quotient. IQ will tell you how to play the game of life. IQ will tell you. What is EQ? Emotional quotient, emotional intelligence. Daniel Goleman made a research in 1991 and said that EQ is more important than IQ, in emotional intelligence. What is IQ? IQ will tell you how to play the game of life, whereas EQ will tell you how to play the game of life under changed circumstances with changed strategies. And what is SQ? SQ will tell you whether to play the game of life at all or not, well, that's your choice. What is the purpose of life? What is the meaning of life? Why are we playing this game? Where do we go after life? What is the ultimate aim of life? What do we want to achieve after this human life? Are we different from the other species, or are we the same? These are the problems that will be given and answered by SQ. So total personality development means IQ, EQ, SQ, all the three have to be developed. And how to develop SQ? It is here that the Western science hasn't got much of an answer. They can only say that spiritual intelligence has nothing to do with religion. There is no direct relationship. There is no direct. A person may be religious and yet having less SQ, and another person may not be so-called religious from external point of view and yet with high SQ. Because it is not only the external rituals that you are performing, But inside, really, are you advancing? Have you concern for others? Are you becoming more unselfish? Are you becoming compassionate? These are the various values they have told. While judging SQ, they were given various parameters how to develop SQ and how to judge SQ. But all this combined, Swami Vivekananda has given a beautiful formula. He says, try to manifest the divinity within, and everything else shall be arranged harmoniously around it. Try to manifest the divinity within, and everything else shall be harmoniously arranged around it. So that is only one thing we have to do, and that manifests in the divinity. And that is why Swami Vivekananda gave the whole gist of Vedanta in his book on Raj Yoga, where he says, each soul is potentially divine. The goal of human life is to manifest this divinity within by controlling nature external and internal. Do this either by worship, psychic control, or philosophy, by one or more or all of these, and be free. This is the whole of religion. Dogmas, rituals, worships, temples, forms, churches, mosques are but secondary details. Main thing is manifesting the divinity by developing the nature external and internal. How this can be done? 4 methods: Raj Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Jnana Yoga, and Karma Yoga. Raj Yoga is meditation, but in actually Raj Yoga, there is a book by Raj Yoga, Swami Vivekananda. He delivered lectures in New York, first in 1894, 1896, 1895, 96, like these 2 years it went off. All these 4 yogas he delivered for the first time to the whole world in New York City. He started there, and these 4 books have come out. So Raj Yoga is nothing but the Ashtanga Yoga Patanjali, where he is given his commentary. And the 8 steps of these Raj Yoga are Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama, Pratyahara, Dharana, and Dhyan, and Samadhi. Yama is those 5 principles of Vyama: Satya, Asteya, Brahmacharya, Aparigraha, Ahimsa. Satya, truthfulness; Asteya, non-covetousness; Brahmacharya, chastity; Aparigraha, non-receiving of gifts; and Ahimsa, non-violence. So these are the 5 values called Yama. 5 moral principles or 5 basic values. Then 5 values that are called Niyama: Shauch, Santosh, Tap, Swadhyay, Ishwar Pranidhan. Tap, austerity; Swadhyay, study; Shauch, purity, external and internal cleanliness, both external and internal, that is Shauch. Santosh, contentment. So all these 5, Shauch, Santosh, Tap, Swadhyay, Ishwar Pranidhan, is surrender to God or devotion to God. These 5 make it Niyama. And then there is Asana, the type of asana. There are so many asanas. Then Pranayama. Pranayama is controlling the breath. Pratyahara, withdrawing the mind. The capacity of withdrawing the mind is called Pratyahara. Dharana, trying to fix the mind at one spot. This same dharana then becomes dhyana. Meditation is continual concentration on one object or one pratyaya, and later on, when full absorption is there, that is called samadhi. So if you can, a time comes when we are able to withdraw our mind from our senses going, our mind is going to various direction, to get it back to our place of where we want to fix. This capacity of withdrawing the mind and keeping it on one making it having attention only on one particular pratyaya. It may be light, it may be some divine personality, it may be a form, it may be anything, but it may be a thought, it may be a breath, anything. If you want to concentrate only one particular desirable object, you have to withdraw it from wherever it is going. This capacity is called pratyahara. Then when you are able to fix your mind on your desired object of meditation for 12 seconds, then you have achieved dharana. If you can do it for 12 seconds in 12 seconds, that is 144 seconds, if you can do it continuously, absolutely continuously, without a single type of here and there, then it becomes dhyana, meditation. And when you can do it 12 into 12 into 12 seconds, then almost half an hour, then it becomes samadhi. Then there is savikal samadhi, nirvikal samadhi. Again, there are many types of samadhis. But so it's a gradual process of enlightenment. So that is called Raj Yoga. When we try to do that, then we will be able to control the mind. So Raj Yoga. Bhakti Yoga is devotion. Now prayer, taking the name, taking the mantra, chanting the mantras. It may be Om, it may be Gayatri mantra, it may be Naukar mantra in the Jains, whatever, some mantras which will be having a purifying effect and which will be giving you internal energy, pranic effect. That mantra, that is repetition of the mantra, prayer, devotional songs, kirtana, worship, external, all these are various methods, but most important part of Bhakti Yoga is loving the Supreme. That is Bhakti Yoga. Ultimately, all these are methods, but the aim of Bhakti Yoga is to love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, with all thy strength, with all thy mind, with all thy soul. That is the real religion. That is the real kernel of religion, loving the Lord. So that is Bhakti Yoga. Then comes Jnana Yoga. Jnana Yoga, they have got the process Shravana, Manan, Nididhyasana. First of all, you learn about the fact, then you try to cogitate over it, then final absorption. For example, you will learn that each and every soul is potentially divine, but then you have to reason out why and how, and then you get fully absorbed in that particular reality, supreme reality. So, according to Jnana Yoga, there is a supreme reality permeating the whole world, and the same reality is inside every human being. And we have to realize that supreme reality. Once we get that, then we get tremendous power, infinite power, infinite courage. So that is our real nature, going beyond time, space and position. This self-transcendence was not being given any importance so long, but Abraham Maslow, one of the greatest psychologists of our times, in his book, The Farther Reaches of Human Nature, has acknowledged that no, the ultimate aim is not only self-actualization. So far he was talking only about self-actualization. No, the ultimate aim is self-transcendence. Not only self-actualization, but self-transcendence. That was the goal that was put forward by our Indian scriptures, by Vedanta. That ultimate aim is to go beyond time, space and causation and becoming one with the infinite, getting infinite energy, infinite life, becoming immortal, infinite power, infinite bliss. That is the ultimate aim objective. Transcending these all relative existence of Maya. So this is now the whole world is coming, that yes, the true development is developing SQ, going beyond time, space and causation. Self-transcendence, not only self-actualization. Einstein himself has told, but at that time we did not give any attention to what he said in his book, The World as I See It. Albert Einstein said, the true value of a human being is determined primarily by the measure and the sense in which he has attained to liberation from the self. The true value of a human being is determined primarily by the measure and the sense in which he has attained to liberation from the self. So liberation, moksha, mukti, transcendence is the ultimate aim of human life. This is where we differ from animals, and that is why Lincoln Barnett, in his book Einstein and the Universe, he says, man has a unique capacity. No other species has got that unique capacity. Man has a unique capacity of transcending himself and perceiving himself in the act of perception. Man has a unique capacity of transcending himself and perceiving himself in the act of perception. And Niels Bohr, the Nobel Prize physicist, says, we are spectators and actors in this great drama of life simultaneously. Actors and spectators in this great drama of life simultaneously. This is only with the human beings. No other species has got that special prerogative. Two human beings are playing the drama. There is a war going on between Duryodhana and Bhim, and Duryodhana is fighting with Bhima and going on hitting at Bhima. Bhima is also trying to hit Duryodhana. But when they are trying to hit each other, he knows that he is Duryodhana, I am Bhima. Bhima knows. At the same time, Bhima knows that actually speaking, he is Ramesh and I am Dinesh, and both are going to have coffee in the green room after 5 minutes. After this game is over. So we are actors and this spectators is this great drama of life simultaneously. Please come. So that is how self-transcendence is the real thing, which is the ultimate aim of life that has been given by this was given by Vedanta long back. Now the modern psychologists and the modern scientists are also accepting it. Of course, Einstein had also told, Lincoln Barnett had said, there's a beautiful book. There was a professor of botany. He was a Christian father, Teilhard de Chardin, great person. His books were not allowed to be published, because they went against the theology of Christian theology. So these books were not allowed to be published. But they were published posthumously after his death. One of the important books that is published, the name of the book is The Phenomena of Man. Beautiful book in which he raises this question: what is the difference between a man and an animal? What is the difference between a man and an animal? And then somebody gave the reply that is intelligence. He said, not necessarily so. We also find this. For example, in our house, I don't know here, but in India this happens. That sometimes the housewives, what do? They keep the milk in the kitchen. And they find the cat has stolen the milk. So what do they do? Then second night, what do? They do not keep the milk in the kitchen. They hide it in some other room and find that cat has taken from that room also. Who is more intelligent? So even a cat is intelligent. Even a donkey is intelligent. We say, after all, he is a fool like a donkey. But even donkey has got some intelligence, some IQ. But it may not be too much. But it is there. So intelligence is not what differentiates us from the other humans or the species. According to our scriptures, out of 84 lakhs of species, only human beings can have self-knowledge. According to modern science, there is not 84 lakhs of species, there are 125 lakhs of species. Not much different, after this cloning and all that, there is not much difference. 125 lakhs of species, only human beings can have SQ. So both are meeting. Now the modern science also tells. Now what is that prerogative? So what is the difference between man and animal? And Teilhard de Chardin says beautifully, while a man knows what he knows, an animal does not know what it knows. The animal knows, the cat knows how to steal the milk, but the cat does not know that I should not have the knowledge of stealing the milk, it is bad, and I should not steal the milk, it is bad, it is morally bad. No. That type of power of discrimination, and whether she should have that knowledge or not, that type of discrimination faculty is not available with cat or with dog or with any other human or with any other animal. Only human beings can have that power of discrimination, that viveka, what we call viveka, vivek buddhi, that power of discrimination, what is good, what is bad, what should be done, what should not be done, what is right, what is wrong, what is commendable, what is not commendable. That particular capacity of discrimination is available only with the human being, with no other species out of 125 lakh species according to the modern science, which is called SQ. Power of knowing the meaning of life, power of knowing the very purpose of life, the power of knowing the very objective of life is available only with the human beings. An animal knows, it has got the intelligence how to take the things and how to snatch the things from other places. We believe that our aim is to compete with others and take out the money that is in the other's account into my account. Well, that is nothing but following an animal's way. Animals can do that. What is the speciality about it? So according to the theory of evolution, Darwin says that this competition is an important ingredient. But the modern psychology says no. Up to animal being it's okay. But when it comes to human being, it is not how much you accumulate. It is not how much you can snatch from others. It is not only competition, but it is the capacity to give to others that makes the evolution in the human stage. I'm going to that point in the second lecture. I'm going to give what do we gain by giving, and how are we different. The more we give, how this is all second topic I'm going to there. But this is where the modern psychology also agreeing that in the theory of evolution, Darwin's theory of evolution is not applicable at the human stage. Up to human stage is applicable. It's not competition and struggle for existence that alone, but it's struggle for excellence. And excellence only and transcendence, not only self-actualization, but self-transcendence is the goal of life. So that is the Samadhi stage. Finally, Raj Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Gyan Yoga is going beyond time, space and causation. And fourth is Karma Yoga, converting work into worship. Whatever work we are trying to do, every work can lead us to that ultimate reality. We need not go to the forest and the caves for practicing this spirituality. Spirituality, development of SQ can be done here and now. Whatever we are doing, while doing the same thing, we can still develop SQ. And while converting work into worship. That is Karma Yoga. So these are all the four yogas that will help us in transcending our human nature and becoming one with the divine, manifesting the divinity, manifesting infinite power. It is already there. We don't have to get from outside. What will happen? The more we try to get that, we will have more of self-confidence, more of self-control, more of self-sacrifice spirit, more of self-reliance, and ultimately self-knowledge, that is self-transcendence, getting that infinite power. All this will come when we practice these four yogas in daily life. So, what we mean by value education is to make a human being, convert a human being into the divine, which is ultimate nature. Ultimately, our nature is divine. Swami Vivekananda, when he was in the United States, he used to tell everybody, he used to say, if I ever feel like blasphemy when I call you a man or a woman, you are not man, you are not woman. What are you? You are divine. You are gods, you are goddesses. You are divine, you are divine, you are divine. That's what he used to say. You are divine. You are not man or woman. If ever I feel like blasphemy when I call you a man or a woman, you are divine, you are divine. Then one lady said, Swami, you are trying to hypnotize us. Always telling you are divine, you are divine. You are trying to hypnotize us. Then Swamiji just laughingly said, I am not trying to hypnotize you, I am trying to de-hypnotize you. Because always listening, you are weak, you are weak, you are miserable, you are sinner, you are sinner. You are really thought that I am a sinner. Already. Everybody is thinking I am a sinner. I am ordinary human being. I can't do this, I can't do that. I am miserable. This, bah, bah, bah. We are just bleating like flock of sheep. Swamiji used to give a beautiful story of a flock of sheep. This is a lion and the flock of sheep. So Swami Vivekananda gave this concept. What is a real human being? What do we mean by man-making education? What is a man? Is it conglomeration only flesh and blood? No, it's not physical. Is it only body-mind complex? No. Inside this body-mind complex is the divine reality. Esha sarveshu bhuteshu gudo atma na prakashate drishyate tagraya buddhya shukshmaya shukshmadarsivi. Inside every human being there is a center of consciousness called Atman, which has got infinite knowledge, infinite is embedded into it. You don't have to import it from everywhere else. This infinite power is within every one of us. It is there. We have to only manifest it. Only we have to remove the covering. That's all. There is no difference between a saint and a sinner. The difference is not in the inside divinity. The difference is in the covering. The covering is thick, you call it sinner. Covering is thin, you call it saint. That's all. But covering is there. Remove the covering, you're divine. This covering has to be removed by these 4 yogas. That's all. But ultimately, the real thing is that we are all divine. So that is why Swami Vivekananda gave that concept. He gave the shloka from the Shweta Upanishad. Shurvantu Vishre Amritasya Putraha Ai Dhamani Divyani Tastu Vedahametam Purusham Mahantam Aditya Varnam Tamasa Parastat Tameva Viditva Timritameti Nanya Pantha Viditena. He said, drove in the Parliament of Religions in Chicago. I have found the ancient one is beyond me, all miseries. Shrumantu Vishre Amritasya Putra. Listen, what is the name given? Amritasya Putraha, the children of immortal bliss. If you ask any student, what is a man? Immediately the child will say, man is a social animal. Because that is how the teachers have taught him. Man is a social animal. But Aristotle says no, man is a political animal. But after all is an animal. After all is an animal. But Benjamin Franklin says no, man is a tool-making animal. After all is an animal. Alvin Toffler says no, man is an economic animal. But after all is an animal. This is the Western concept. But the real concept that India says, what is a man? Shurvantu Shre Amritasya Putra. You are not animal. Who are you? Children of immortal bliss. We are all divine. The children of divinity. Even Christ said, the kingdom of heaven is within you. That is the real concept of a human being. We are all carrying that divinity within. We are the children of immortal bliss. And then Swami Vivekananda said in the Parliament of Religions, let me call you brethren, with this name what Vedanta says, the children of immortal bliss. Ye, the children of immortal bliss, holy and perfect beings, ye divided on earth sinners, it is a sin to call a man so. It is a standing liable on human nature. Come up, O lions, and shake off the delusion that you are sheep. Your souls immortal, spirits free, blessed and eternal. You are not matter, you are not bodies. Matter is a servant, not ye the servant of matter. Children of immortal bliss. So we are all children of immortal bliss. Amritasya Putra. That is our real nature. And that is our great heritage. And that is our divine birthright to get that divinity. That birthright we have to get. That is the aim of education. The aim of education is to take a man from an animal nature to the human level, and from human level to the divine level, and make him free. Make him free from all types of bondages, from all sorts of limitations, and let him have infinite knowledge, infinite bliss, infinite existence. Then only we will say we have achieved the goal of education. So value education is not simply trying to give a few values and have a story book and just give values, and then the teachers also do not know what they are teaching, and the moral stories are being told, as I told you, that is not being reflected in their life. Any amount of these value education classes are not going to have any effect. We have to go to the root of the problem. Be and make. Let the teachers and the parents imbibe those values in life. And that is not only a slip-slop method. We have to go to the full-fledged method, go deep down into it, trying to manifest the divinity, and in the process practice these 4 yogas. In the process trying to imbibe these values, and gradually it's a long-term process. Value is not 1 year course, 2 years course. It's a lifelong course. But one thing is there. The whole society is in a very bad shape. Very bad shape. So many, all values are lost. So many suicides. So many people becoming mental drug addict. So many people going to psychiatrists. Many becoming schizophrenic. So much of violence. So much of terrorism. All the problems are multiplying. Modern civilization. What type of civilization we want? Do we want to have a civilization? Do we want to have a society where there are more and more abortions? Even 11 years girl getting aborted. Do we want that type of society? Do we want that the children should take up the guns of their father, their parents, and go to the school and kill the teachers and innocent children just for the fun of it because they had seen some program in the TV? Do we want that type of civilization? What type of civilization we want? We have to decide now. After 5-10 years, what type of society we want where our children, grown-up children will live? We want that they will have to carry a revolver before coming out in the streets? Do we want that in the evening hours they will not be able to go out in the streets? What type of society we want? A safe society, a sane society, or an insane society? A violent society or a non-violent society? What type of society, what type of civilization we want? That all we have to decide. Swami Vivekananda said that civilization is the greatest, where the human beings can manifest the divinity. That is the greatest society. Where this scope of manifest the divinity is there, where there is more of spirituality, that is the highest civilization. But of course, we have to be practical also. Swami Vivekananda said Roman civilization was so great, and the aesthetics, the arts, culture, music, they all had a lot of development in the Greek culture. But this Greek culture is not there today. Died. Why it died? Because of its sensuality. Extreme sensuality. It died. Roman civilization, so great. And the administrative power was so great. But still it died. It's not there. Why? It died because of its brutality. It died. Indian spiritual culture, Indian civilization, so grand it was. Thousands of years back, in everything we excelled. It has not yet died, but it is in a dormant stage. It is still existing. Even the old India is still there. Old Indian spiritual culture, even now you can see in India. But it is not effective. Why? Because of its impracticality. The Swami Vivekananda said, we want a civilization which will be grand like a Greek civilization, minus its sensuality, coupled with the grand Roman civilization, minus its brutality, coupled with the grand Indian civilization, minus its impracticality. So we want this future civilization to be a combination of all the three, all the plus points, remove the minus point. If we really want to have that great civilization, then we have to have enlightened citizens. And one more thing, when we are talking about value education, many times there are two things that have to be sorted out. Many people are of the belief that we should not in the value education give any religious training or any values of religion. Because if you give religion, then again they will be dogmatic, then they become terrorists and they will kill others. So we should be having secular approach. But this secular approach will not be of any help, because then what will be have? If you remove religion from this human society, what would be left with? A bunch of brutes. That's all, animals. So this religion is the constitutional necessity of any human being. So we can say. But what we mean by religion is spirituality. Spirituality minus dogmatism. Minus dogmatism, minus fundamentalism, minus sectarianism. That type of spirituality we want, where there is equal respect towards all religions. So there can be two methods. One is that remove whole religion, blacksmith method. Kill the mosquito, kill the man also. The son was told to kill the mosquito, but he gave the hammer in such a big manner the father also died. That is what we are trying to do in secular education. In the pseudo secularism, what are we trying to do? Remove all these religious spiritual values, because it is there that religion makes a conflict. So remove religion, remove spirituality. What will be left is like removing the mosquito, removing the man also. So we want spirituality, but then minus dogmatism. So let there be harmony of religions be taught. Let the respect towards other religions also be taught. Every human being should be taught. And most important thing is that society depends upon, society or the nation cannot develop by the number of laws that are passed in the parliament. Swami Vivekananda said this. You cannot have a good society. No amount of parliament acts can make a nation great, can make a nation good. This is what was quoted by Dr. Kalam. Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam, when he came to Porbandar, he came twice, once before becoming president, for inaugurating one of the 81 school buildings constructed by us as a part of earthquake rehabilitation project in Porbandar. Again he came on 12 January 2006, Swami Vivekanand birthday, National Youth Day celebration, talking to 5,000 youth for inaugurating Vivekanand Institute of Value Education Culture, Vivek. And he had given me a promise. On 16th April 2003, I was talking to him at Rashtrapati Bhavan, and then I gave him the video series that we had prepared of the function of 13th February 2002, and I said, Dr. Kalam, you want to make India by 2020 a developed country, but I can tell you, even if you bring the wealth of the whole World Bank and even the GDP rate grows, but still the poverty of the poor people will remain as it is. He said, why so, Swamiji? I said, for the simple reason, the former Prime Minister said of India, if you put 1 rupee into the 5-year plan, only 15 paisa comes to the grassroots level farmer. I am afraid even 5 paisa is coming or not. Rampant corruption in the country. Then he agreed, yes, corruption is there. And because of that corruption, the benefits of the various development projects not coming at the grassroots level farmer. By the time it reaches, the farmer has committed suicide. And it's only 5 paisa. What is the solution, Swamiji? I said, only one solution. What we should have done on 15th August 1947, we should do it now. What is that? Swami Vivekananda said, what we want is man-making education, character-building education. And then I told him that we are going to start at Porbandar Vivekananda Institute of Value Education and Culture, VIVC, Vivek. And you have to inaugurate it. He said, Swamiji, I will come. And he kept his promise, came on 12 January 2006, inaugurated Vivekananda Institute of Value Education and Culture, and talked to 5,000 youth. Wonderful. During that time, there was question answer session. So a student stood up and asked the question, Sir, Operation Duryodhan and Operation Chakravyuh and other operations revealed at the tip of the iceberg that is rampant corruption in the country today. As the President of India, how do you feel about it? And where do you think lies the solution? What is the solution to corruption? Then Dr. Kalam took up a book of Swami Vivekananda and read out a passage. That video series there, I will be giving a copy to share in foundation. It can be shown to others. Maybe it can be shown today also, some glimpses. Today you'll find. Today you are showing these 5 minutes. You'll like it. Question answer session. Then Dr. Kalam stood up and he read out a passage from the book of Swami Vivekananda, where Swami Vivekananda says, no amount of parliament acts can make a nation good, can make a nation great. Then what can make a nation great and what can make a nation good? Only a large number of good enlightened citizens and good enlightened people can make a nation good and can make a nation great. And then he said very frankly, and the government cannot produce good people and the government will not produce good people. That also he said. Then who can do it? Only 3 persons can do it. Father, mother and the teacher, nobody else. Parents and teacher. They only can. Because you cannot transform the nature of a human being. After the age of 15, impossible. And now I am saying even age of 11 is too much. When they are small kids, then only you can give them values. Afterwards, very difficult. Very difficult. Once they set values are not, I am not saying that at the old age also there are so many people are receiving and they even, I have seen people getting at the old age also some good values getting and their lives transformation. But there are exceptions. But in general, if you want real transformation, that has to start at the child level. That is why value education is very important, because at the time when the children have come to you for getting, they want to learn. When they grow up, they don't want to learn. No, they want to teach you. They don't want to learn. At the time when they are recipient, at that time we can give the values. These immortal values. You are divine. You are divine. You got infinite power. Work it out, infinite power. These good values. And if they become good, then the society becomes good. If we really want a good civilization, we must have enlightened citizens, enlightened people. But what type of citizen? That also we have to know. Now is the age of globalization. Swamiji, when he came 100 years back, the world was not ready to receive his message. Now is the time we can really receive the message, because Swami Vivekananda talked about universal religion. At that time, he talked about universal religion. He said, we want a religion which will accept all religions equally true, and which will have elements of all the religions, and it will have infinite scope for taking other religions in future also. He was a visionary. But now it is possible because now is the age of globalization. The communication technology has undergone transformation. We have become all one. Instantaneously we are connected through internet, through mobile, through ISD. We are all connected physically. Of course, physical distance is also annihilated. That is number one. Second, United Nations has come. There is a sort of conglomeration. I was in United Nations 2 days back. Wonderful. So there are attempts going on trying to unite the whole world for world peace. So what type of citizen we want? Now we want is a global citizen. We want a citizen who will be not only thinking about his own nation only, thinking about the whole globe. We are all one as a humanity. This concept of a global citizen has to be given, and that is what is being given. UNESCO has told in the 21st century education, we will have to produce a global citizen who will be thinking about the global values. The global effect has come, one effect has come. The global problem of environment and pollution, all these problems at the global level have to be sorted out, and for which we want to have global citizen. Not only devoted to the nation, but devoted to the whole world. These divisions of caste, creed, color, religion, nationality have to be broken. And we all have to become human beings first, and then become divine and free. If that is the goal, the value education has to aim at that. So, as I told you, it's a very broad concept. It's not a short-term goal, 1 year course and 6 months course. It's a lifelong course. And preferably we should start from the children. But then, as I told you, the teachers and parents, if they do not have values, then the values will not. Because the values are not taught, they are caught. And that is why we have to work. We work there in India at 3 levels. We have various programs for parents, we have various programs for teachers, and then we tell them, as a teacher, you are torchbearer of change. I have given a video CD based on my talk, the teacher as a torchbearer of change. There's a book also, Teacher as a Torchbearer of Change. That is also available in my website. You can download it in PDF form. All my books and articles are there in PDF form. You can download rkmvf.com/sm. That is given in the flyer. From there you can download. CDs are also there, and there is a CD, Science and Art to Become a Better Teacher. Under that caption, we'll tell them how responsible you are. Most important for value education, teachers how their character affects the character and influences the character of the children who are going to be future citizens, who are going to be the future prime minister, ministers, officers, and all responsible citizens in future. They're all in your school. You can make out of them Mahatma Gandhi, Subhash Chandra Bose, or you can make them Abraham Lincoln, or you can make them Dr. Kalam, or you can make them Einstein, scientist, or you can make them Bin Laden, whatever you want. You can make them terrorist, you can make them anything. So all are there in your class. They are all sitting there. How you mold, that's all important. What type of training you give, what type of education you give. You know, all these terrorists, they were educated in our schools. Engineers, doctors. Yes, some of the terrorists what they attacked in India, but they were doctors. They were engineers. And mind you, when they sat down in the aeroplane with the idea of striking with the world tower, they sat down by taking the name of Allah. And they were doing a very great work, they thought. Because they were their brain was being washed. They were brainwashed. And they were given a faulty education. Why it happened? Because we did not give value education. Had they got value education in our schools, had they got the message of harmony of religions, had they known that the saints and greatest saints have been produced by all religions on earth, they would not have got hatred towards other religions. And had they not got hatred, they would not have sat down in the aeroplane with this wish of killing others and thinking but thereby we are going to go heaven. They were being misguided. They could be misguided because we did not guide them when they were children. We are responsible. We are responsible for any terrorism, any act of terrorism, for any act of violence, anything what is happening in the world, we are responsible. Mind you, these terrorists, we have met them. We did not give them proper values when they were children, so they could get bad values from other places. They could be brainwashed because we did not brainwash them when they were with us. Always remember. Let us take the fault in ourselves. And even now it is not too late. Better late than never. Already we are late. But better late than never. Even now, on an urgent basis, on a war footing, we have to value education. War footing. We have to give this man-making education, not terrorist-making education. We have to give them how to become better human beings, enlightened citizens of the whole world, making them aware that all these differences of caste, creed, color, religion, nationality, they are all going to give divided. We're giving them the message of non-violence, giving the message of universal love, giving the message of harmony of religions. If these values we are able to give when they are children, when they will grow up, nobody else will be able to brainwash them. Nobody will be able to brainwash them. Because they have been given proper values and during childhood. So better late than never, on an urgent basis, on a war footing, we have to make them enlightened citizens, global citizens, and with those values, and ultimately let them become divine. Let them get infinite joy, infinite happiness, infinite blissful. And the more such divine personalities, those who have manifested the divine, the more they are in the society, the greater will be the society, the better will be the society. And a time will come when the dream of Swami Vivekananda will be realized, when he said that Sri Ramakrishna was born, and when he is born, from that day, Satyuga has started. Satyuga, the golden age has started. The golden age is an age when the children will be born with yogic powers. The golden is an age when there will be no violence anywhere in the world. The golden is the age when everybody will become divine. The golden is the age when everybody will be loving each other, irrespective of caste, creed, color, religion, nationality. That golden age has already started by the advent of Sri Ramakrishna. Only thing, it is not visible. Gradually it is taking place. It will take a long time. In age when transformation comes, it will take a long. Only 175 years back, Sri Ramakrishna was born. Only 150 years back, Swami Vivekananda was born. But gradually, the transformation is taking place. And there are so many other saints have been produced by so many other religions. They all come together. They all come together and they have given these values. So, without mentioning any name, that's why we don't want to mention the name of Sri Ramakrishna Swami Vivekananda. We don't want to color them. It's okay. Take the values. Forget about the name, from where the inspiration comes. Forget about Indian values also. We don't say that it is Indian spiritual culture, this and that. Nothing. From wherever any great value comes, without getting the name and fame or publicity, these are the values. We nurture them, make the enlightened citizen, the global citizen, and then we will get that golden age for which we are aspiring for. So I am very happy. I do not know how much time I have taken and whether how much time is left, but because there is going to be question answer session, many of the things will be sorted out during the question answer session. I want to reserve more time for question answer. But only thing I wanted to give basically three things. That number one is value education is very urgent. On a war footing it is to be done, number one. Number two, by value education we do not mean only sleep slop method. It's a very long run process. It means the whole transformation of a personality, growing into an enlightened citizen, a global citizen, and having the capacity of bringing out the revolution in the whole world at a later stage. So that is value education. And third thing is that there's a triangle of value education. Only giving the value to the students is not enough. Teachers and parents have to be prepared for it. Thank you very much.
Just spend few minutes and say how the parents can teach their children to do the yogas, 5 minutes, if they have 10 minutes in the morning. Okay,
Yeah.
how you can start.
Yeah. Now, the parents have to start with themselves, and this yoga she was talking about. Now, yoga, first of all, we must understand what is yoga. Yoga is not only doing Shirshasana or some asanas. No. Yoga, that is an important word, imported word, but actually yoga is union with God or union with the divine. That is yoga. And as I told you, there are 4 yogas: Raj Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Karma Yoga. In Raj Yoga, one of the methods is Hatha Yoga, and Hatha Yoga, one of the methods is this asanas. And these asanas are many. Trying to practice these asanas for physical health has been called yoga. That is only a very small part of the whole yoga. But anyway, even this yoga is important. Because as I told you, physical health is a must. So first, when you want to have total personal development, you must have physical health. For physical health, you must have nutrition, good nutrition, regular diet and regular food and regular exercise. And one of the exercises could be yogasana. So what you mean by yoga is yogasana. But what I mean by yoga is, yogasana should be of course there. So maybe some breathing exercises. But there I would advise, Swami Vivekananda gives in his introduction to Raj Yoga, that one should not practice Raj Yoga without the help of a personal guide. What will happen if you do not take a personal guide and still practice Raj Yoga in your enthusiasm? Start some breathing exercise and you start seeing some light and some smell and all that, and you start getting some siddhi and you become so enamored and go on going for pranayama, kumbhaka, and ultimately ending up in a mental hospital. So don't do that. So what we advise is that Rechaka and Puraka, that's okay. Anulom, Vilom, no kumbhaka. If you want to do kumbhaka, it requires separate type of lifestyle, separate type of food, and a special guru, special guide. Without that, don't go for kumbhaka. That is holding the breath. But taking the breath and taking out the breath, same amount of time. That is called Anulom Vilom, Rechak Pura. That can be done. That is one thing. That is called the software of Yogasana. And hardware is Yogasana, that is, you can have Sarvangasana or you can have Halasana. There are various types of asanas. So these type of asanas are also helpful in curing your some ailments also, at the same time giving you health. So some asanas software, some asanas hardware. This is for physical health. Most important, yoga is meditation. So every day, at least for 2 minutes, the children should be taught meditation. Now, there are various types of meditation. In my book, some article you'll get, and my CD also you'll get. Meditation for Excellence Life, I have given many types of meditation out there. Vipassana, Pasana, Preksha, Dhyan, Zen meditation, Vedantic meditation. Whatever meditation you want, you can do, but don't do more than 5 minutes to start with. Gradually increase the time. So one very simple method of meditation is trying to concentrate on a divine personality. It helps in 2 ways. When you concentrate on a divine personality, the purity of the divine personality infiltrates into your subconscious mind. And the purer the mind, the greater is the concentration of mind. So you get more concentration also. Secondly, it is easier to concentrate on a form rather than an abstract. If you want to concentrate on an abstract thought, or say on a Lord who is without form, becomes difficult. But a concrete form. So for example, you like Buddha, take up the photograph of Buddha. You like Christ, take up the photograph of Christ. You like Vivekananda, take the photograph of Vivekananda. Concentrate, see with it open eyes first, and then close eyes, and try to say the same photograph, the same form inside your heart. Heart center is the best center for meditation. Of course, there are other centers also, Agya Chakra, but Anahat Chakra, heart center, is the best, which is safest. So, heart center. Inside your heart, try to see the same divine reality. What we have seen with your open eyes, try to see the same. There are various methods, as I told you. You take up any method. But this is the method I suggest to the children. You take up a form, say a photograph of Swami Vivekananda. See the photograph 1 minute with open eyes. Then close your eyes and try to see the same form within your heart. It becomes easier. What happens in that case? That it becomes a habit with them. And when that form comes, immediately they remember, oh, Swami Vivekananda used to recite this encyclopedia. Swami he had got that much of power of concentration. Swami Vivekananda had that much of purity. So, indirectly, their subconscious mind derives purity also. So, mind becomes also pure. It has a double effect. So, but you can have any type of meditation. So, this type of meditation, morning and evening, is very necessary. So along with the yogasanas, both software and hardware, you must also have this meditation. And if possible, add little prayer. Prayer can be many types of prayer can be there. Eventually chanting of the mantras also can be many. Om is the best one. Om is Pranava mantra. Om has got infinite power. In fact, the whole universe started from this sound Om. Now the modern science also says it was these big bang theories there. With the big bang, the whole universe was created. Big bang. And that big bang was Om. In the beginning was the word, and the beginning was the word, and from the word this whole world was created. That is what even Bible says. So beginning was the word, and that word was Om. And that is not Indian name. From the Om has come Amin, and from Amin has come Amen. So everywhere there is an equivalent of Om in every religion. So that is the Om. And it takes care of all the vowels. A, U, Ma. Ma is here and A is inside. Whole, whatever you speak about, whenever you speak, these three covers the whole gamut of our speech. And this is the spota, the great big bang with which the whole universe started. It's a very big syllable. So that is why any mantra, ordinarily when you find any mantra, when you say, it starts with Om. Om Bhur Bhuvasya Gayatri mantra. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Sri Krishnaya Namaha. Om Sri Ramchandraya Namaha. Om Sri Durgaya Namaha. Whatever, Om is there. So Om is that syllable. That's why Swami Vivekananda wanted a big temple of Om. That's why in Belumat when you go, there is a place where Swami Vivekananda left his body. He told also, when I give up my body, then you cremate me here. 3 or 4 days before his death. That's why nobody at the time, his age was only 39 years, nobody even dreamt. But it really happened. Within 3-4 days he passed away. He had told that when I die, you cremate me here. Exactly same spot near Ganges, his body was cremated. And there is a temple of Swami Vivekananda, and upstairs is the temple of Om, and downstairs the temple of Swami Vivekananda. So in a way we have tried to, Sister Nivedita particularly tried to actualize his dream of having the Om temple, but this is what was dream of Swami Vivekananda, that there will be Om temple. So chant the mantra Om. While you are meditating, you can chant the mantra inside Om. Both japa and mantra can go, japa and meditation can go together. And prayer, there can be various types of prayer, whatever prayer, to whomsoever you want to pray. But one of the best prayers has been taught by Swami Vivekananda. He said, when you start your meditation, start your prayer with this prayer, let all be happy. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhina, Sarve Santu Niramaya, Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu, Ma Kashit Dukhamapnuya. Let all be happy, let all be healthy, let all attain good, let none get misery. This is the prayer that many of us chant right in the morning. That has got a very good effect. Very good effect. Swami Vivekananda says that at long last you will understand the best way to become happy is to see others happy, and the best way to get peace of mind is to pray for others' peace of mind. So when you pray for others' peace of mind, you yourself first of all get the peace of mind. So that is very important. So start with this prayer, unselfish prayer. Then you can have any other prayer. Oh Lord, give me employment. Oh Lord, give me more. These are all other things are ready to use. Most of the people, they don't want God. They want from God. Anyway, it's all right. We are all kindergarten. We are all children in the kindergarten of spiritual life. That is what Swami Vivekananda says. We just want. We believe in give and take philosophy. So in religion also, we have this commercial approach. Oh Lord, if you give me this, then I'll give you this. We don't say I'll give you this, then you give me this. We say, supposing if I get a job, then I'll give you 1 coconut. So with 1 coconut, we want to give a jump salary. How our religion works. Anyway, so unselfish prayer, meditation, little bit of meditation, some yogasana, both morning and evening. At least meditation prayer. And one more thing that we forget is this satsang. Now satsang is very not possible always because of the distance. But now there is no problem. There is e-commerce, there can be e-satsang. Electronic satsang. You can have CDs, you can put on the CDs. I have brought many CDs, that's why. You can put on the CDs. You can put through internet, you can download so many things. So and all these things are available. So you must have such. And books are also audiovisual and books. These two are very important. So at least 5 minutes, if the children can be made to read books, I have seen transformation with my own eyes. So many children, they have grown into more enlightened citizens. They have achieved success just by reading a few minutes. Nowadays, very difficult to tell them to read because there is no time for them. Because first of all, there's so much of complication in India, particularly. There are a lot of syllabus and all that, and then they go to school only for attendance. Then they go to then they go to coaching class for real study. There's different time. Then they go to tuition classes for further study. They don't have any time for homework, and then of course there is so many channels have been started. 500 channels are working. So what channel to see, what not to see. There is so much of internet, video game. No time for reading these types of books for character building. But still, I tell them you start with 5 minutes. How to get 5 minutes? That also tell them time management. Time management is very important. When they tell me that I don't have time, I ask the children, okay, how many of you are not getting 24 hours? Everybody gets 24 hours. Everybody. Nobody can say I am getting less than 24 hours. 86,400 seconds are deposited in everybody's account in the morning. Whatever deposit, whatever money you use of this, okay, then next day they are not carried forward, they are gone. So try to utilize each and every second. Next day again 86,400 seconds will be deposited in your account. Try to utilize each and every second. Now, out of which I want only 1%. There in India, still there is, we go for Madhukari. In America it may not be possible. But there we go for Madhukari. Madhukari in the sense that we go for Bhiksha. Bhiksham Dehi. So they give Bhiksha. Then I tell the children, I have come here, you must give me Bhiksha. I am a monk. I am a beggar. I am a professional beggar. I ask for some higher purposes, for the good of all. So I am a habitual beggar and a professional beggar. So I said, I want Bhiksha. Will you give me? Yes. How much? Whatever you want. I don't want money. Money I will take from your father. But from you I want, which is the most precious thing. What is the most precious thing? There is a proverb you remember. Time is money. No, time is not money. Time is more important than money. Because if you lose 10,000 rupees in a business, you can get it back. But you can't get back the second which you have lost. Gone. Gone forever. So time is more important than money. I want Bhiksha of time. No, we don't have time. 86,400 seconds. Everybody's account it is deposited. I don't want all your 24 hours. Only 1% of your time. Can you give 1% of your time? Okay, 1%. 99% is yours. You give me Bhiksha 1% of time. For your own welfare. Not for me. So 1% of time means say 864 seconds. That is 14.5 minutes, not even 15 minutes. What you have to do? Early morning get up. Not possible. Because in India also, their day starts only 12 o'clock, 11 o'clock. Because up to 2 o'clock they are studying. They said at night we like to study. Morning I can't get up. At night whatever amount of study I can do. But no getting up morning. Early morning is very difficult. So somehow that lifestyle has come for the children. They start their day very late. Anyway, whatever time you get up, you start 1 minute meditation, 1 minute prayer, 5 minutes of reading some inspiring books which will give you some inspiring thoughts, transforming thoughts. So 7 minutes in the morning after getting up. Preferably in the early morning, if not, whenever you get up. And 7 minutes at night, similar. 1 minute meditation, 1 minute prayer, and 5 minutes of reading. So 14 minutes gone. Now left is half a minute. Half a minute what you will do? I tell them become CID officer. Because I will not be there to judge and come whether you have given 14-5 minutes to you. You yourself become a CID officer, that is, write down your diary. Self-analysis. How did I spend my whole day today? Did I make good use of the 86,400 seconds? Did I study well? Did I have a concentration in study? Did I study the book of Vivekananda or any other good book on well-education? Yes. I have meditated? Yes. So you write down your diary half a minute. This is the one way, the children have to be given the whole package. They have to be told what to be done, they have to do how to be done, and then there are difficulties also, there are time management also I have to give. So I give the whole package. And then the what to get the books, I carry books also. At the end of my lecture, I give them one small book as gift. As gift, everybody, I give the gift. And then other books, I carry the whole book sale section with me. I give them special discount, 50% discount. You take the books, 50% discount, 20%. You take the books home. And I give them suggested reading also. I give them phase wise, syllabus number 1, syllabus number 2, syllabus number 3. Phase wise I give them. So I want to give them whole approach. Not only talking about total personality development. First of all, what is total personality? Then how it can be carried out, how it can be done, what is to be done, and then I say something has to be done by you from today, not from tomorrow. काल करे सो आज कर, आज करे सो अब, पलमा पल्ले होएगी बहुरी करेगो कब. I give them Tulsidas this proverb. I said, which party you belong to? Because Tulsidas said, whatever you want to do tomorrow, you do it today. What you want to do today, you do it now. Because who knows what will happen next time? Of course, there is opposite party also. Opposite party says, आज करे सो काल कर, काल करे सो परसो. इतनी क्या है प्यारे जब जीना है परसों. They say, whatever you want to do it today, you do it tomorrow. Whatever you want to do it tomorrow, you do it day after tomorrow. Because we have to live long, many years. Why you are in a hurry? Yeah, nice living. Good things we will do later on. Bad things let us do today. This is opposite party. So I tell them which party you belong to. No Tulsidas. Then you start from today. From today you start doing at least 5 minutes. All do not do it. But those who do it, give me nice letters and beautiful letters. Those I'm preserving those letters. That is my feedback. That is my achievement. This is my food. I don't need any other food. That gives me pleasure, happiness. Okay, whatever small amount, whatever percentage I have got, that's enough. If Swami Vivekananda said, if I can transform one person's life, that is enough reward for me. And I have got so many letters, so many Falikon calls, so much of feedback that no, Swamiji, at that time we did not believe, but now it is gone. So many people, when we give the book, they don't read it. They don't get time. Even after telling all this, they do. But afterwards, suddenly, they failed in examination. They are in distress. At that time, they get the book and then they are saved. Oh, this book has saved me. Had I not read that book, I would have lost my life. Somehow that they say, oh, that book was given to me, thoughts of power. And then once they read the book, they get that power. So they may not read, but some or the other, it helps them. So I give them book, whether they will read or not, I give them. It is available with them. Sometimes it happens that they don't read because they don't have any value for it, no time for it. I have to develop my career and I have to do my engineering and I have got to get gold medal and then I have to go to the United States for higher education. What is the book? Nothing. So their friends, they ask that you take it, Baba, this is a burden for me. Their friends, they got transformed. Then they write to me, I got the book. You had given to somebody else, he did not read it, but I read it, my life is transformed. Okay, that is also. So somewhere this book will be helpful. So I give the books. So this is very important. As a part of value education, I carry books section with me. I give them the book at the end of the program. I tell them how to manage time, how to get the time for meditation, prayer, and for this reading the book. That also I tell them. And it has got a very, very good response. We have got a very good response. Of course, it is not 100% as I told you, but many schools are inviting us again and again. We are having so many schools and colleges we are going. Both we have got in-campus program, at the same time out-campus program. So just as in Porbandar now, we are trying to have another institute in Baroda. This Vivekananda Institute of Value Culture, also in Baroda. Of course, the land is available, but it's very costly. If we get the money, then we will purchase that land. That is just opposite our Dilara Bungalow. Dilara Bungalow is the place where Swami Vivekananda himself stayed. In 1892, Swami Vivekananda was traveling all over the country. Before he came to United States, he was traveling all over the country and he spent maximum time in Gujarat. And it is a coincidence. And the last leg of his journey in Gujarat was in Baroda. From Baroda he went to Maharashtra and then on to South India and then at Kanyakumari he meditated for 3 nights and there he decided I will cross the ocean, bring science and technology from the Western countries and in turn I will give them Vedanta, nectar of Vedanta. This all these things that he did while traveling all over the country. He came to Gujarat and the last leg of his journey was Baroda and he stayed for a few days in Dilaram Bungalow. as the guest of the then Diwan Manibhai Jashbhai, which is situated just opposite railway station, main railway station in Baroda. That bungalow has been given by the government of Gujarat to Ramakrishna Mission for converting the befitting memorial of Swami Vivekananda. That in 1892 Swamiji stayed here, and 2005, only 5 years back we got the bungalow. And we are again, same thing, we are trying to first of all repair the building, very old building. We are trying to repair the old building. Then we have meditation hall, we have mobile medical unit, we have big library, we have value education programs, children program, milk feeding center. With the help of Share and Care Foundation, we are getting some milk. So we are giving the milk to the children. And slum development project, prisoners reform work. It's a very big work we have started from everywhere. There's a very good response. Prisoners are reading the books, you know. Prisoners have started reading the books and they are enjoying the book and they feel that there's a new life waiting for them. So small way we are trying to bring value education not only to the students but teachers, parents, prisoners, officers, executives at the corporate level. Everywhere we are trying to have value education programs. But of course the most important part is of course students, because they are the people who will receive it early and will have maximum effect. But in a very, so we are making our own humble efforts. Ramakrishna Mission. This I am talking about only one center in Baroda. Likewise, there are so many centers. We have got Vivekananda Institute of Human Excellence in Hyderabad. We have Ramakrishna Institute of Moral and Spiritual Education in Mysore. Likewise, there are so many institutes working solely for value education. And we have got 6,000 education institutions of Ramakrishna Mission where we are training 6 lakh students. And there also, along with the teaching, we give them value education. So apart from that, we have specialist institutes working on the front of value education. So we are trying to work in our way. And now I am very glad to tell you that very soon we are going to have 150th birth anniversary celebration of Swami Vivekananda. You know, he was born in 1863. So 2013 to 14 is going to be the 150th birth year. And celebrations will be held throughout the world. And the government of India and the Prime Minister of India has become the chairperson of the central committee of this celebration. And they have released 100 crores of rupees, that is 1,000 million rupees, for value education work to Ramakrishna Mission. This is the new, just the latest news I am giving. So we are going to have this value education in a very big way now that we'll have some funds. But this is, we think, is the most urgent thing required for the whole world, for bringing out happiness and peace throughout the world in all parts of the world.